wanted to talk to you today a little bit about some of the crazy things that are starting to happen and have been going on, setting up the Antichrist system right there in London. And it's really alarming what is going on there. So we need to talk about this, and I just wanted to share these things so that you're wide awake and aware of what this climate agenda with the Royal Cipher and the 666 of carbon is going to be coming right out of the King's kingdom, so to speak. So I'm going to be talking about the ultra-low emission zone, known as ULEZ, is expanding across all London boroughs on the 29th of August, 2023, bringing clean air to 5 million more people. More than 4 out of 5 drivers in outer London won't be affected. But, it'll soon spread, believe me. And, of course, they show the ULEZ ultra-low emission zone that they plan to implement this climate agenda. And what cars are allowed in the ULEZ? The Euro 3 for motorcycles, mopeds, motorized tricycles, and quadricycles. Euro 4 NOx for petrol cars, vans, minibuses, and other specialist vehicles. Euro 6 NOx and PM for diesel cars, vans, and minibuses and other specialist vehicles. How much does the ULEZ cost? Non-compliant cars entering the ULEZ need to pay a 12.50 pounds charge that runs concurrently with the 15 pound congestion charge. That 12.50 pound charge allows cars to drive in the ULEZ for a 24-hour period, meaning you will need to pay each day you are in the zone in a non-compliant car. Once again, it's called London's ultra-low emissions zone. And if you're in a non-compliant car, you're going to be paying daily like a punishment. The key changes with the ULEZ expansion: the ULEZ zone will expand on August 29th, 2023, covering all of Greater London. This expansion will affect millions of residents and drivers who will need to ensure their vehicles are compliant with the ULEZ standards or face a daily 12.50 pound charge. Now, the person putting this all in place is the Islamic mayor. So what are the disadvantages of ultra-low emission zones? Freedom, people. Freedom to live and do as you please as a human being in God's world. But it says the cost of upgrading or replacing vehicles that don't meet the necessary emission standards. Rerouting journeys to avoid ULEZ is inconvenient and can often extend trips considerably. What it's going to do is cause havoc and chaos, and that's what they want. And of course, King Charles III is the head of all of this stuff. And I told you the king will be putting his plans into place, and whatever he says is going to go. So how to avoid ULEZ? To make sure you never need to pay, the easiest way is to simply ensure that your car meets what's called the Euro emission standards. For petrol cars, they must be of Euro 4 standard or higher. For diesel cars, it's Euro 6 or higher. Handily, all petrol cars on Cinch are compliant with the ULEZ restrictions. So this is the Islamic mayor Sadiq Khan's idea, and it's the hated ULEZ expansion, and is brought to court today. 5 Tory-led councils bring High Court challenge against London Mayor's unlawful plan to extend the capital's ultra-low emission zone, known as ULEZ, that could see drivers charged 12.50 pounds per day. And the Daily Mail had other articles regarding this hated law that he's trying to expand and enforce upon the people of London. Mr. Khan said that TfL had good confidence it would be able to enforce the ruling across the Greater London expansion from August 29th. So nothing like overextending your power as mayor. So they have these green signs they put up that say ultra low emission zone, ULEZ, at all times. Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, could be set to ramp up efforts to enforce his ULEZ scheme with the use of mobile cameras after at least 200 cameras have been vandalized by Londoners so far. And they've got the map that is of the proposed expansion of the ULEZ zone. And it's pictured in this map has angered Londoners. That's because this guy comes in and enforces his beliefs and tries to enforce this on all the people. This is nothing more than another WEF invasion of freedoms and privacies and allowing people to just live their lives. Londoners were holding signs that said, "Beep for freedom," "Stop ULEZ," "Stop Khan," "Our roads, our freedom," "No ULEZ," "No payment per mile," "Stop ULEZ," "Sack Mayor Khan." And I agree. He needs to lose his job. Demonstrators were holding placards saying these things against London Mayor Sadiq Khan and chant slogans during a rally to protest against the expansion of the ultra-low emission zone ULEZ at Marble Arch in June. London Mayor Sadiq Khan admitted that a small number of people had been vandalizing the cameras and that 2 had been charged with vandalism offenses facing a court hearing. We need to pray for those Londoners that are doing what's right against this wicked ruler that's doing what's wrong. This whole thing is the setup of the Antichrist system that's coming out of London and starting there where the king is reigning. And it's going to expand from there, and it's going to go global, just as they want it to. And it's going to put burdens and take away freedoms of ordinary citizens like us. So we need to be praying for the people in England, in London in particular, and in Oxford, where they tried to do these dastardly test runs of only letting you drive in a 15-mile zone. It's just absurd, these ideas they're coming up with. So, Daily Mail reported that now Sadiq Khan threatens to use hidden mobile cameras in the ULEZ areas. Transport for London will no longer provide details on just how many cameras were being vandalized, as there is danger of inadvertently giving vandals the oxygen of publicity, Mr. Khan said. So what they're trying to do is set up cameras to make sure you comply. So they're taking away your freedom of privacy as well. And it's just absurd. So, Daily Mail reported now Sadiq Khan threatens to use hidden mobile cameras in ULEZ areas. And this is reported by George Idenden at 6:49 p.m. UTC on July 20th, 2023. And somebody was telling me today that we've entered the time of the 9th of Av. So is this any wonder that this would happen in the world at such a time of mourning for the 2 Jewish temples, the houses of God, that were destroyed? And Sadiq Khan could be set to ramp up efforts to enforce his ULEZ scheme with the use of the mobile cameras after at least 200 cameras have been vandalized by Londoners so far. Yay for the Londoners. Woo-hoo. The move has sparked concern among doubters over whether Transport for London, or TfL, will be able to enforce the mayor's Clean Air Directive. The Transport for London, or TfL, will no longer provide details on just how many cameras were being vandalized, as there's a danger of inadvertently giving vandals the oxygen of publicity, they said again in the article. London's mayor, whose position is up for re-election next year, tried to downplay concerns that the capital's drivers could evade the £12.50 levy by working out routes where they won't be picked up by cameras. Give me a break. On the Transport for London's use of mobile cameras to enforce the congestion charge scheme, Mr. Khan told Mayor's Question Time in previous schemes with the C-charge and the ULEZ, there was the possibility for there to be mobile cameras as well. Conservative member of the London Assembly, Peter Fortune, asked the mayor for an update on the topic of ULEZ camera vandalism so far and whether it would be feasible for London's transport body to enforce the ULEZ rules across all 33 boroughs. Mr. Khan said that the Transport for London had good confidence it would be able to enforce the ruling across the Greater London expansion from August 29th. And he told Mr. Fortune, if that was your concern in relation to loopholes or routes, it's not their first rodeo. They've done this before. Mr. Khan admitted that a small number of people had been vandalizing the cameras, and as they said before, that 2 had been charged with vandalism offenses facing a court hearing. Well, they shouldn't have to vandalize the cameras because the cameras shouldn't be there in the first place. He said, having taken advice from policing partners and others, the Transport for London has taken the position that it will not be releasing information about the number of cameras that have been subjected to criminal damage. They're not criminals. They just want to live in freedom. As a way of trying to dodge vandals, the Transport for London has been using cherry picker lorries for placing cameras out of reach of civilians. This came Mr. Khan said the number of cameras that the Transport for London originally planned to have by the day of go live are still confident they will have by the date of go live. They are confident that they will get to the number they need to get by August 29th. London's transport body is hoping to roll out 1,750 more cameras before the ULEZ expands on August 29th. However, the go-live date could potentially, if the High Court finds Mr. Khan broke the law, yep, or exceeded his authority, yep, in implementing the scheme. A judge is expected before the end of the month. Praise God. And let's pray that they find him guilty. Transport for London has tried to keep the exact locations of the cameras secret. However, opponents to the expansion leaked the details on Facebook groups. Good for the Londoners. The true Londoners, I should say. Earlier this month, the High Court was told that the body refused to publish camera locations to avoid vandals taking the cameras down. A judicial hearing brought forward by 5 opposing Tory councils was told that unfortunately people have a hobby of tearing down the cameras. Gee, I wonder why. because you're taking away their freedom of privacy and their freedom to be free and do as they please and drive where they wish. If the exact location of the cameras is mapped, their survival time is greatly reduced. Duh. I mean, what do you expect? You know, you act like tyrannical leaders and you don't expect the people to rebel in any way, shape, or form? That's absurd. And it's just starting in London, all of this climate gobbledygook headed by the king, and just think what's going to happen if they make him the world leader. And Israel and the Palestinians become part of the Commonwealth, which they could easily do by applying, which they've talked about behind closed doors, and that would put King Charles III as their anointed king, Messiah. And since they want to be the upstart state of Israel, working with the UK with their 7-year trade, tech, climate change, gender change agenda, then you know that this climate change is coming there soon. And these things are things that I'm sure Joe Biden spoke to the king about when he just went on the trip there. So all of this is going on behind the closed doors to implement these crazy things that these people come up with. Now, all we can do by the power of God is pray against such tyrannical reigns of these leaders and ask the Lord to intervene on our behalf. People in London need to turn back to God, need to pray to God, and need to pray against all the wickedness coming forth out of the place that they are living. God protect them, and you know, we know these things are coming out of this kingdom that's, you know, going to be turning into something worldwide. So I don't know. It's something every single day, a battle every single day. And it's wearing out the saints, it's wearing people out, but we know that the power of God is greater than anything these little twerps can do or handle. God is able to bring a tornado to tear down a Pfizer plant. Woohoo! An act of God. And that's all I'll say about that, just because I can't speak of those things on this channel. But you know what I mean, you can figure it out. So anyway, this low emissions zone is what they're trying to implement in London, and it's unlawful, and pray that this mayor will be removed, because he's unlawfully trying to put his own ideas in place, and he's overreaching his duties as mayor of London. And truly, if they're putting this in place in the city of London, you know that they're going to try to use that as their WEF model city. They've already got China implementing all these tyrannical things over there. And you saw the protests during the horrible lockdowns, and they were just brutal to their people. You know, fining people for driving into the city of London in an old car is absurd. So anyway, this is just what I have to say about it. And you can see that these things are part of the beast system that are happening. A beast is a king, and the king is there in London. So you can see where it's going to progress from there. And if they allow this law to go through, it'll be one thing after another, and this is just the start and implementation of their insane ideas. But God is so much more powerful than they will ever have power. I mean, I think it's funny how they think that they can get away with everything that they think and do and scheme on their beds, just like the Old Testament says, you know. But God sits up in the heavens and laughs because he sees that their day is coming. And he knows that the judgment is going to be harsh on these people. You cannot take away people's freedoms. And you cannot expect people not to rebel when you take away their freedoms or try to implement your insane ideas onto the people. I've been pretty ticked off lately seeing that the gas prices went back to, let's see, the last time I looked, I believe it was $4.99. And it had gone down into the 300 range for the first time since Donald Trump was president. I'm just appalled every time I go to the grocery store. They've made it to where you cannot buy the beef because they don't want you to have the cows to have the beef. And they're trying to cull all these animals everywhere to fit their dadgum agenda. You know, I mean, you don't kill animals for the sake of your stupidity and the implementation of your ideas. Cattle on 1,000 hills are mine, saith the Lord, and he watches over and will implement his judgment for those who are brutalizing his animals. And you know, God gave us the meat to eat. He instigated the Passover meal with the lambs and told the Hebrews to roast the meat and eat it at Passover. So they are going against God's laws of being able to eat meat and trying to enforce lab-created meat. And now it's chicken meat that they're doing. So you're going to have to be careful to read your labels when you go to the store. And, you know, they're messing up our world by thinking that they're wise. They became fools. And implementing all of this stuff for the creature. But God's the one who delivers the creature from the curse that came upon the whole earth from Adam and Eve's sin, turning against God and not obeying his laws. And the Messiah, Jesus, came to reverse that curse of death as the second perfect Adam, and he will return at the end of the time of the 7-year time of Jacob's trouble. I believe this time of Jacob's trouble is coming because of the fact that Israel's going to reestablish an earthly monarchy and put one last King Saul on the throne. Because they've rejected God as their Yeshua, which is their salvation, which is their only form of redemption. And until they say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, you know, it's not going to go well. They plan to be leaders with the UK, with these climate agendas and these low emission zones that they want to put in place will be implemented. Now, we don't have zones where I live, but I just had to take an emissions test with my car. I did not pass the first time because my gas cap leaked. Okay? Fortunately, I bought a locking gas cap, but I had it in the car instead of putting it on there because I wasn't sure I wanted to lock and unlock all the time. So, fortunately, they let me go through a second time putting that gas cap on, and lo and behold, I passed. Here, they're not trying to penalize you and make you pay whenever you drive into the city, but they are making you pay a fee yearly, and you also have to pay for the test that they require. And you have to keep doing it till you pass. Fortunately, they did not make me pay the second time. I'm grateful for that because things are hard and difficult as they are. But, you know, there's a reason why our president just met with King Charles over there at Windsor Castle to talk about the climate situation and the fact that these no-go low emission zones are going in August 29th if they follow through with it. You know, I can see them easily implementing stuff like this here in the United States, because we already have to have emissions tests for, I don't know, at least the last 20 years, I would say. So, prayer is the greatest weapon we have. And God listens to the prayers of the righteous, but his ears do not hear the prayers of the wicked man. There is so much going on with the parliament over there in London. It's unbelievable. And I believe that the Tory members just kicked out 5 of the opposing people that were there in place that were more right-wing. I'm not fully up on all of what's happening, but I heard this just the other day, and that it was an appalling thing that happened, that people are never kicked out like they were in such disrespect. So what they're trying to do is pop out of power those who have level heads that want the old way and not these new wicked ways of the wicked WEF and their evil beast kingdom agenda. And it's amazing that it's starting right there where the king is. I just think it's one big huge telltale sign that Israel will accept him as the anointed one if they become part of the Commonwealth, which they have the right to do since they were under the British mandate when they first became a nation. And when they were born, King Charles III was born. And as I've said, the very fact that the one that Israel will accept as king, who claims to have a lineage that goes back to King David and Solomon, and, you know, had a lot of Jewish help at his coronation ceremony with top rabbis in the UK and over in Israel. And some of the clothing was prepared by a tailor in London that was Jewish. There was a lot there. You know, the lady who put the cape or coat, whatever they call it, over his shoulders was Jewish. So, you know, a lot of the Jewish rabbis and stuff have accepted him as their king already that are in London, that live there. So it's not too far a stretch. They can apply to become members of the Commonwealth, and I found an article saying that they were thinking about it, and the Palestinians also thinking about it, which would make King Charles III the broker of peace between the two. And then they could have these startups over there in Israel of this climate agenda. So then they could take down the democracy, as I've been saying in so many of my videos, and taking down the judiciary and changing it all up. So they would put the Sanhedrin as the new world Supreme Court under the king, and they would have, you know, a one world government, a one world religion, and it would all come right there to Jerusalem to be set up at the third temple. They have a Sanhedrin building they're going to build on a wing of where the temple is. And I believe that that's where the abomination of desolation will be placed. And all of this is going to come about. You just watch. It's developing as you're watching, as I'm speaking. And only the Holy Spirit could reveal so much and bring it forth so that we see it ahead of time. And we see it coming forth, and we know who it is. So I believe that God allows his people to have foreknowledge and to see things before they come to pass so that they're warned. There's people that say something about, if you know who the Antichrist is, you've been left behind. Well, no, I don't think so, because I think he's becoming more and more evident. And I think that those who are left behind are the ones who didn't see and have no idea of the fact that he's going to become a world leader, a world king, and enforce all of these things that are beginning to happen in London. So be praying for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray that the Lord Jesus comes soon and that we are worthy to escape all these things, because the righteousness that we only obtain by believing in his testimony and partaking in his Passover Seder through the communion, and just believe in your heart that he came to redeem you from the wrath to come. And that's all I have to say for tonight. Keep your eyes open, because history is stampeding forward, and these things must come to pass, because Jesus said they were going to happen, and it's very clear and becoming clearer every day who and what is involved. So with that, I'll just say good night for now. Keep trusting, keep having faith, never lose your faith, and trust in the Lord even if things get really bad in your life, even if things fall apart, and keep praying, because the Lord is with you wherever you go. Good night.